Trump surprised Iran after a base used by American forces in Kuwait became the center of the crisis. And Washington's response targeted the structure that Tehran uses to track drones, threaten planes, and test how far it can provoke the United States without paying a price. On Monday, June 1st, 2026, the crisis escalated because the Iranian regime tried to present the attack on the base at Ali al-Salem as a victory, but ended up revealing something else. When it targets an American asset, it exposes its own radars, command centers, and drone platforms to a direct response. Iran tried to turn the siren into propaganda. Trump turned the attacked base into a justification to cripple the military arm that threatened Americans in the Gulf. What was Iran trying to hide? Why did the base become evidence against the dictatorship? How did Trump respond? I'll explain in a moment. If you like this kind of straightforward and no-nonsense content, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to receive videos. The American action took place after the United States Central Command reported self-defense strikes against Iranian radars and drone command and control centers in Goroki and on Kashim Island. The American version says that the response came after aggressive actions by Iran, including the downing of an MQ-1 drone that was operating over international waters in the Persian Gulf. In practice, Washington did not treat the episode as a major incident. Incidente isolado. They treated it as part of Iranian military pressure, while Iran tried to turn the story around. The Revolutionary Guard stated that they attacked the base from which an American aggression against a telecommunications tower in Hormozgan province had allegedly originated. Hormozgan. The Americans said their fighter jets hit the operation's origin and warned that repeated aggression would bring a different response. This kind of language is old in the regime's playbook. They provoke, shoot down American equipment, use radar bases to monitor aircraft, then shout that they're just reacting. But this time, the Iranian reaction itself gave the game away. The Ali al-Saleh base emerges as a key hub because it hosts important operations of the United States and its allies in the region. When Iranian missiles and drones are launched against this type of facility, even if some are intercepted, the message is clear. Tehran wants to target the American presence outside Iranian territory and show that it can spread risk beyond its borders. But this calculation comes at a cost. Trump doesn't need to convince anyone that there is a threat. Iran did that on its own when it brought the crisis to a base with an American presence. That's where the narrative changes. Trump is saying that Iran won't use war technology to threaten Americans and then hide behind an inflammatory statement. The Iranian regime tries to sell resistance but acts out of fear of losing control. The impact hits the image of the Revolutionary Guard, which presents itself as an invincible force, but depends on equipment exposed on islands, coastal bases, and command points. The reaction against Kuwait was meant to show strength, but it also showed vulnerability because it revealed which structures were being used in the confrontation. Trump works with pressure on two fronts. The first is military, to make it clear that a downed drone and threats against the American base will not go unanswered. The second is political, because each reaction from Iran helps Washington show its allies that Tehran is not a defenseless victim, but a regime willing to use missiles, drones, and militias when it feels cornered. Iran wants to turn any American attack into proof of aggression. Trump turns the Iranian reaction into proof of a threat. Kuwait also comes into this story as a warning to the Gulf nations. The attack shows that Iran does not target only Israel, nor does it speak out only against Washington. When the crisis intensifies, the regime shifts the risk to neighbors, bases, routes, and governments that host a Western presence. This scares allies, but it also strengthens Trump's argument. If the region wants security, it can't let Tehran operate without consequences. The American presence in this scenario doesn't appear as a whim. It appears as a barrier against an escalation that Iran itself is fueling. When Iran shoots down American equipment and claims it was over its own territory, while Washington insists the operation was over international waters, the dispute becomes more than a technical detail. It becomes a test of authority. If Trump backed down, Tehran would understand that it could keep pushing the limits. Because there was a response, the message changed. Each provocation could cost a part of Iran's military structure. The attack on the base in Kuwait also shows the risk of Iran's saturation strategy. The regime tries to use missiles and drones to create a sense of siege, trigger sirens, create dramatic images, and fuel headlines against Trump. But this tactic has its limits when it faces American air defense, intelligence, and response capability. Even when debris causes injuries and damage, the episode does not erase the main fact. Iran attacked a facility linked to the United States and gave Washington political grounds to respond more firmly. Trump also gains domestic leverage with this interpretation. The anti-Trump media tries to portray the crisis as improvisation, but ignores the fact that the president operates with a simple calculation. Negotiation only works when the other side understands that provocation comes at a price. Iran wants to calm things down when it needs to buy time and wants to attack when it needs to show strength to its base. Trump puts pressure on both fronts, keeps the diplomatic door open, but shows that diplomacy will not be used as cover for a downed drone, active radar, and threats against the American base. The Revolutionary Guard knows that the information war is part of the real war. That's why they rush to say they've destroyed targets, retaliated against aggression, and are ready for a different response. But the tough talk also reveals concern. A secure regime doesn't need to turn every explosion into a propaganda spectacle. A secure regime shows it can reopen. Iran showed nervousness, tried to inflate its own reaction, and even put Kuwait at the center of an escalation that could draw more allies toward Washington. The most sensitive point for Tehran is that the American response doesn't depend solely on the White House. Central Command registers the threat, identifies the points of origin, classifies the action as self-defense, and operates with a structure already positioned in the region. Trump uses this machine of power to do what his opponents can't accept: respond without asking permission for narratives favorable to Iran. The regime may shout that it was a victim, but the sequence of events shows a pattern of provocation, response, and a new attempt at intimidation. The base that was hit also serves as a reminder that American soldiers and contractors in the region are on the front lines of a conflict that the left tries to turn into a platform against Trump. When Americans are injured by debris or when drones are damaged, the question shouldn't be how to blame Trump. The question should be, why is Iran launching missiles at the facility with an American presence? This reversal is the narrative trick that needs to be undone. Trump surprises Iran because he doesn't accept the logic that Tehran can choose the moment to attack and then demand that Washington just absorb the blow. The brutal response isn't in the noise but in the chosen target. Radars, command centers, air defense, and drones form the backbone of the Iranian provocation. Hitting this backbone is telling the regime that the next threat could cost more than propaganda can hide. I'm Milson Alves, Global, and my purpose is to keep you accurately informed every day. The news links are in the video description. Like this video, subscribe, and check the comments afterward to become even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.